Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Retro Bliss, and you are on the Retro Bliss Rewind podcast. Welcome. If you guys are watching from Mike's Gaming Gala, we obviously are simulcasting over there as usual. We have a very special show tonight. We have John Champeau of Champ Games. He has been on the show twice before, and I asked him to come back. There's been a lot going on at Champ Games, and so I thought it would be kind of nice to have him back on to give us an update, tell us what has happened since we saw him last time, and maybe find out what's going on, what he's working on. So without further delay, let me bring in Mike from Mike's Gaming Gala, and then the man himself, John Champeau. Hey, John.
Welcome. Hey guys, how's it going?
Before we get into it though, I'll just mention to the chat two things actually, because I noticed Torque's in the chat, and I already talked to Phil about this. But first of all, if you have any questions, what I'm doing is I'm starring them in the chat, and as we get opportunities, I will bring your questions up. So if you have a question, don't worry, we will ask it, but it probably won't be right at then. And the other one is just super quick. I owe an apology to Torque. It's been eating me up ever since I said it. I knew it was an ass thing to say as soon as I said it, but yesterday he was very kind and generous, and he donated 20 memberships to Casey the Intellivision Gamers channel. And I said, Torque coming in hot. And then I said, where were you yesterday? And I wasn't thinking at all, because
he was there.
He was there. He's been a kind and generous supporter of me for a long time, and he did donate memberships. I felt like an ungrateful ass, and I apologize, Torque. I do appreciate you. It was just a stupid thing I said.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy, and I'm sure he probably didn't think anything of it. I wanted to mention what I was going to say was I have my office where I do the streaming is on my second floor, and then my game room is in my basement. And so I wanted to carry the games up. Well, I just had shoulder surgery. I needed like a courtesy carry out to get all these games. I got this big old bag of games. And a lot of them I got this year. And John, what we want to do is we want you just to kind of begin by telling us what you've done since I believe the last time you were on here, you were actually just working on Spider's Arcade. I can't remember.
Tutankham had just come out last time he was on.
Okay, yeah, well, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, I know.
And so what's happened since then? I know what's happened, but why don't you tell us what's been going on at Champ Games?
Okay, yeah. So just 2025 recap is probably the best way to do this. So at the end of 2024, I got Spider's Arcade playable, so it would be eligible for the ZPH awards. It's kind of a big deal. So I think I posted a build of that in the end of the year. So that was good. That was actually a really fun game to work on. It was one of my favorites growing up. So I know a lot of people weren't really aware of it, but it's a great shooter, and I really, really enjoyed working on that one. So it looks like the community's really enjoyed it too. So a lot of people.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Mike was streaming that on his channel a couple days ago.
Yeah, it's challenging. It definitely gets the blood pressure going for sure. But,
I remember when you first put the demo out, I decided I would kind of showcase it without having played it much. I was getting killed all the time, and
we were making fun of him, but apparently you bailed him out.
Yeah, Mike, he razzes me all the time about my gameplay, and if anybody belongs or watches this channel at all, if you're here for extra gameplay, you're probably at the wrong place.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I was getting killed left and right, and while Mike was making fun of me, John's like, wait a minute, he shouldn't be getting killed that easily. And so I think you had said that you were making some tweaks to it or something after you saw me playing, which was embarrassing, but
not only that, the demos we release are usually a little bit too difficult because we're testing them and we haven't really honed in the gameplay yet. Spiders, that would have been November, December last year. We didn't release it till August, so we had plenty of time to, what we end up doing eventually is we try to make Novice something that, like a kid could play, an 8-year-old or Phil. That could just, you just pick it up and play and not get stressed out and just really enjoy yourself for a couple levels. And
but really, I will say to all the chat, and Phil will laugh and Casey will laugh, but you get so much more out of the Champ Games experience if you actually read the manual. Because there's extra gameplay modes, there's so many extras he puts in there.
Yeah, we really I gotta tell you, the manuals are the worst part of releasing a game, at least for me. It's very stressful, and it takes a long time. Not as much as to make the game, but certainly that's we do put a lot of time in that, and Nathan does a great job with the layout, and we have multiple iterations of the content to make sure that it's something that's usable and useful for the people that buy the game. So thanks, Mike, for being probably the only guy that actually reads them. So I appreciate that.
Well, I don't.
I know, exactly. So for everyone Phil doesn't read, Mike reads 2 of them. So
and they're all free. All of the Champ Games manuals are free PDFs on his website.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. It's not...
that with people. That's a decision I made last year that, instead of usually we would just give them to people or give the links to people that bought the ROMs. But then I thought, this might be a better idea for people. If you go to the game description pages that we have on our website, they all have a link to the manuals. That way people know exactly what they're getting when they buy the full version. There's no guesswork there.
And you've got demo ROMs for everything on there too.
Yes. Yep. And we've actually put together. We have 25 games on there now. So we do have like a pack that you can download, the Champ Games pack, which has 14 games, and then we have the Champ Games Presents pack that has 11 games. So you can get them all in one fell swoop if you want, either an NTSC or PAL. So it's makes it a little bit easier. So. So as far as Spiders is concerned, we worked on that. And one thing I've really taken on, I wish I could turn the clock back a little bit on some of these older games, but I really have enjoyed and appreciated working on the challenge mode of these games, where, when we first started doing these games back in like 2000, whatever, well, I actually started in 2006 with Conquest of Mars and Ladybug. Mm-hmm. The goal was really just to try to get it as close to the arcade as possible. But in my older years, maybe I've gotten a little more creative. We certainly try to do that first, and then we always save space and time to add new challenges, and that's where challenge mode was born. It was actually born out of Galaga, our port of Galaga, which is Galagon, where we added challenge mode there just because it happens to be called challenge stages, and we kept the name. And since then, we've tried to add a challenge mode to all our games where it still plays like the original game, but when we add new levels and we add new enemies and obstacles and things like that. So I think that brings a lot to our games. And
absolutely, it really makes it worth. It makes it worth coming. You know what I mean? And
basically,
especially like on a Chaotic Grill, for example, you have a level editor on that. I'm like, what?
That was a great addition by Philip at the end. Very similar to what I did with Wizard of War. Wizard of War has a level editor as well. But the thought process there is that as developers, while you're making the game, it's much easier to make a level through an editor. So you make it for yourself. Then at the end, you decide whether it's worth keeping, because obviously that takes up ROM. And other features that could have been included don't get included. But Phil did a great job. He spent the last 3 or 4 months really trying to squeeze in as much as he could to that game. And certainly I added some guidance with what we do with Champ. So it was more. He was never mandated to do anything, but it was more like, well, here's what I would do if I was making this game. Here's what I would have added and things like that. So he kind of took the lead on that. And some things were just impossible to do, either late in the cycle or, limitations of the engine that he was using or whatever. But I think what he did actually include in that, the release version of Chaotic Grill is, I think, leagues above what was, available like the year before the demo ROMs, obviously. So I think that one got closed up pretty well. Interesting enough, I had started a Burger Time clone myself back in 2018. I got pretty good into it, and Nathan Strum. I know you guys all know who Nathan Strum is. He's a guy that does works on
excellent artwork.
He's
Excellent.
He let me know that there was another version being made, and that's when I reached out to Philip, and so he had made some great progress on Chaotic Grill, and that's where I handed over the reins to him and said, okay, well, we're not going to have 2 Burger Time clones. It doesn't make sense. So
I remember Chaotic Grill being a download at Atari Age for quite a while.
Yes.
And my concern was, and I even asked you as soon as I heard it was coming out, there was a problem with like hit detection, and I can't remember, there was something else.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just kind of buggy.
Yeah, that's typical of a work in progress. So
yeah.
Did you really think that Champ Games Presents would release a game that still had bugs in it?
Well, I had to ask. I was going to buy it anyway. You know me. I mean, oh my gosh. Hold on a minute. Hold on. I got to show y'all something.
John has a reputation to uphold.
Yes, exactly. Even though I wasn't the lead.
These are my Champ games right here.
Oh, yes. Very nice.
They're so used, they're even see-through.
Yes.
Yeah. Green screen.
So I'm not sure where we went with that, but anyway, so the whole thing was Spiders Arcade and adding challenge modes. So that always takes a little bit of time. And 2025 ended up being less productive than I thought it would for me from a developer standpoint, mostly because, obviously we took on the role of publisher, and being a publisher is not just publishing games. There's also a lot of customer support involved in that. I don't envy Al. He has to do with Atari Age because basically we got to do the same. Supplies, suppliers, dealing with schedules of other people, putting together manuals, updating websites, stores, customer support, things like that. It took a lot more time than I thought it would for me, but we did have a pretty productive year as far as the Champ Games Presents side of the coin, because we ended up releasing 7 Champ Games Presents games, and they were all I think they were all like new games, as opposed to the year before where we did a lot of republishing of things like Juno First, Ruby Q, the Stratobox, and Star Castle. This year was 7 new games, so it was even more challenging because all the games were in certain. It wasn't like we had new games; we were just adding splash screens too. It was, working with the developers to get those games completed. And like Mike said, get them to a certain standard as far as what Champ Games is concerned. And it's challenging because obviously Champ Games we use the ARM. We go full cheat mode. That's what Nathan and I call it. Our goal and our mission statement is we use every resource we can to make the game as best as we possibly can make it. We don't go, well, they couldn't have done this in 1990, so we're not going to use that, or make it an engineering task where how many can we fit it all in 4K or something like that. We go, we'll use as much ROM, as much RAM, as much CPU, as much whatever to make the game as best as possible. But I also respect other developers that want to use less resources, either to challenge themselves, because in the end we're all engineers that make these games. It's not just some guy off the street. It's the challenge of actually making the game is part of the allure of making these games for the 2600. So Bob Montgomery, he makes Squish'em, but he used 8K just plain assembly. Or we have
Carl. There's a certain
yes.
Yeah, there's a certain art to that in itself. It's like this is legit what this legitimately could have been a game they released in the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I started. Like Ladybug is 16K, no extra RAM. That would have been something that could have easily been released in 1983 with no modifications whatsoever. And same thing for Conquest of Mars. Certainly Avalanche is only 4K. That was my homage to the original 1979 4K.
Mm-hmm.
And that turned into a double release. We released it through Atari Age as Avalanche, and then we were fortunate enough to have Atari license it as well. Even though they own the license, but license our code, and so we sold the rights to that. We also had did the same with Conquest of Mars, which the original intention was to release that as Cabins of Mars through Atari back in 2005. That deal fell through, ended up being released as Conquest of Mars, but everything made a full circle, and working with the guys at Atari, they've been excellent. They've been really, really good working with
That was the first homebrew that I got from you.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's a great one. I love that game growing up, and that's really what started all for me. When I did the kernel for that was the first kernel I've ever done, and that would have been summer 2005. And after that, it was like, that's where my love for developing Atari games came from. Once I saw, hey, I could do this, that was like, hey, maybe this is something I could excel at. So,
if I can say this, I stream all the time. Well, I used to stream all the time. I normally stream more than I have been. But anyway, especially when I'm playing your games or games that you are distributing, consistently in the comments, people always say, "What if we had this back then?" And I think that's the driving force for people wanting to buy your games, because, let's face it, Galaga, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your port is excellent. It's not arcade perfect, but if we would have had that back then, it's like, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? And that's just one example. I could go on and on and on. I could list all these that I have. A phenomenal, and it takes me back. Like, yeah, man, I was going to the electronics store. I'm buying me a new game now. So
that's Phil's like, imagine I had these graphics in my late 40s.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny. Yeah, that was part of the allure that got me into Atari 2600 program as well. I'm just like you guys. I was born in '68, about 20 years after Phil. But
oh my goodness.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I am a Gen Xer. I am a Gen Xer. If I'd been born 8 months earlier, I would be a baby boomer. But yes,
okay, so you're right on the cusp there. That's good.
Yeah, so I'm right there.
Part of our group here. So
if I had been born 4 months later, I would be a millennial.
Yeesh.
So we're on either side of the we bookend it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I was smack dab in the middle of that. So Atari came out, I was 9 years old, and that was just like a dream true for me. So those memories are hard to shake, and the nostalgia of those games. And
when did you get your first 2600? The year it came out?
Christmas of '78.
So a year later.
Yeah, it was quite a surprise too. We didn't grow up with the means to do that, but my mom really pulled quite a surprise for me and my three brothers that day. So
man, that's the most memorable Christmas present I ever got.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the only time it was hooked up to a color TV. It's like as soon as we were done that day, she's like, "Okay, hook it up to the 13-inch black and white."
Man, that's what me too, man. Exactly.
Because we had the big console TV. That's where my mom watched her soap operas. Days of Our Lives, by the way.
My dad, he would always say, "No, you're going to burn my TV out," and I knew he just wanted to watch Dukes of Hazzard or something.
Yeah, exactly. So they ended up playing Atari on my the black and white for a couple years, and then it wasn't until 1980 that we got our second color TV. It was actually my grandma's TV that we were able to use, and I still remember the excitement of we've been playing Atari for a couple years. And that was also before any really good games have been released. I still enjoyed those games, but it wasn't like anything that blew your mind. But then it was like Space Invaders, color TV, 12-year-old kid. It was like the recipe for excitement right there. So it was, that's when things really took off for me. So.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Although by the time you got to the age where you could probably, I don't know if you had allowances or whatever, but by the time you started buying on the regular, that was probably the beginning of the video game crash, though.
Yeah. I didn't have an allowance. I had an allowance. It was called shoveling and
chores.
So and collecting cans.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're kind of getting into my history, which I think the original question was what did Champ do in 2025? So
I'm sorry.
No,
we
it's fine. I
do
can
that here a lot.
I'm like one of those old guys telling war stories,
Yeah.
Back in my day, But
I had a
honestly,
black and white TV.
Yeah.
No gray, just black and white.
Yeah. And honestly, the video game crash didn't affect me at all. By that time, I was full into the Atari 8-bit scene. That's where I got my.
Yep. I did the same thing.
Yeah, I was already writing games, and that didn't slow down as far as I know. I mean, I didn't notice any blips in that radar. It was like software is still coming out consistently. The games were amazing, and I was developing by then. So I'd have been like, I think 81 is when I started developing. So I was 13. So by then I was still playing the Atari 2600. Then eventually it faded out. So I missed out on a lot of the 83, 84 releases. And it wasn't until my daughter was born, actually, that I got back into Atari, which would have been 2000. A friend lent me one and said, "Hey, you're going to need this for those late nights." And I just started playing. I went, "Man, I really miss this." And then I really uncovered a whole new world for me, because I got to fill in those gaps between what happened between like 83 and 1990. And I was actually very impressed with a lot what happened. And between that and my full-time job of developing, that's when I kind of ventured out into to doing those kind of games. So, but anyway, so enough of my sad story. So,
well, but like you had when you Mike, prior to Spiders Arcade, when we talked, I believe you had, I don't know if you had any games from any other developers or not. Tell us how that kind of happened, that you decided you were going to do that. And then like last year, the floodgates seemed to open because you introduced a number of great games from other people on your website also.
Yeah. So it started off really, I had a few people reach out to me, because this was after the summer of the purge there from Atari Age. So, there were a lot of people left in the same situation I was like.
The great Atari Age purge of 2023.
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough that, I had Nathan, who was really supportive, and really without him, I would never publish. And if he ever stops helping me, I'm going to stop publishing. It's that simple.
Oh, man.
He's a graphics guy. He's the guy that does all that.
You're in forever.
Yeah, he's invaluable. There's no other way to say it. So, so him and I, we went back and forth. We actually went to Opcode, and I asked, just kind of shopped around the Champ Games. But eventually we decided that we wanted to have complete control over schedules and pricing and availability and digital ROMs, which we were already selling digital ROMs by that time anyway. The Atari Age, even though we were selling the physical versions through Atari Age, we were selling that anyway. So we already had the infrastructure and the website. So we ended up moving towards that. Anyway, so like Silvio Magno, who did RubyQ, he reached out to me. And then Carlos Santano, who did The End, and
Stratovox.
Yeah. So those three games are on board. And then, I'm close with Tom Jentz and Chris Walton. We talk all the time. So Nathan's close with them as well. So we reached out to them and said, "Hey, what about Juno First and Star Castle?" So that's basically how the first five came on board, and then we reached out to Al as well and got his blessing and support as well. He helped us, gather all the printed materials and things like that. So we made the transition. So Al was very supportive. I was also very supportive in the publishing realm as well. He gave me all the links to, I'd never published before. So he helped me, here's where you get the inserts. Here's what I do with the boxes. Here's how you do shipping, So he spent a lot of time with me helping with that transition as well. So I know it pained him to have to do what he did, but he was very supportive post-purge. So shout out to Al for that as well. So
yeah, you had mentioned that last time that he
really So all right, my point being is that, the publishing and picking up these Champions Presents, and that there's a lot of people that have contributed probably a lot more than me to that. Champ Games is just obviously I do a lot on my end with the website and the customer support and helping with developers with testing and setting up game testing clubs and reading manuals and showcasing games and things like that. But there's so much that goes in this stuff. So anyway, so that's how that came about. And then this year in 2025, those were all previously published games. And in 2025, we went out and we secured publishing for other games that, again, wouldn't be able to be published through Atari Age anyway because they're unlicensed, games.
Yes.
But Philip Blackman, I approached him about Chaotic Grill. Again, we've been going back and forth with development as well, and helping him with ideas and stuff like that. So eventually, he decided that publishing through Champ Games was the way to go. So we did that, and then Carlos gave us 3 more games with Tomahawk, Lucky Chase, and Dino Eggs. And Chris Walton came back with Boom. And am I missing one? I think I am. Boom.
Squish 'em.
Squish 'em, yes, exactly.
Oh, yes.
Then we reached out to Bob. I didn't realize Squish 'em was a port. I guess it's a port of a Commodore 64 game. So that had been removed.
Yeah, Squish 'em Sam.
Yep. So we reached out to him. And again, some developers say, hey, all I want to do. So that was a republish. Kind of, because he ended up going deluxe. So the original one's 4K. He expanded to 8K. He had a lot of new features to it. I think he did.
Yeah, he went from 6 enemies in the original to 21 in the new version.
Yeah, the extra 4K. Plus, he put in that speed challenge mode. There's now a proper title screen. There's save key support for high score. So it wasn't just a lazy.
Yeah.
Not that those are lazy anyway. Some people just don't want to go back. I know I'm the same way, but
well, and that's if you don't mind me saying, that's one of the benefits I think of you. Like we talked about this at Portland too. When you publish a game, everybody knows. Okay, John Champeau, Champ Games, but it's almost never just you. You've got a team of people that you work with. People do audio, people do graphics, people do. Your manuals and your packaging and all this stuff. And so a big benefit is that if somebody else is programming a game and you're like, you know what, this has the potential to be a Champ Games Presents release, I think it's of that quality and it's something that we want to put out there. You can bring all the power of all that team to help them bring it up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, put up to those standards. So it's quite a team we've assembled. So it's we have a good workflow now. So when a project comes in, it's not like we're running around like chickens with our heads cut off. We know what to do, how to do it. Put in a schedule. Like last year we were able to have. I know we've talked about this before. It's like, hey, well, how come you don't release games all through the year? And the reason is just really it's a money reason, because printing, it's not like we're Atari or some big company where we go to a printer and say, hey, we need 50,000, copies, boxes printed. It's like we need 100 copies printed. So guess what? The price is twice as expensive. So we're always have an eye on the bottom line, and that's for the consumer, not really for us, because believe me, there's not much money to be made here, if any, when you factor in all the time spent, especially.
Right.
The time is ridiculous. I mean, every single weekend, Maureen, my wife, and I, we spend every single weekend 4 or 5 hours doing champ orders, And it sounds like, oh, wait, 1,000 orders? No, that's like 20, 30 orders, because it's every game has to be built, we have to box it, we have to you have to
put little plastic spiders in the box.
Yes, exactly. There's so much to do there. So
nice touch, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. So anyway, so that's how Champ Games Presents came about, and we do have some options for Champ Games Presents this year. We've actually reached out to Manuel Rochler. I don't know how to pronounce the name, but he did a bunch of old games like Colony 7, Starfire, stuff like that. Those have been So we're looking at an opportunity to maybe republish some of his games as well.
I'd be down for a Starfire Deluxe. I loved like it has artists in there, and he has
Can I ask about Colony 7? There was a trackball version for that. There was a regular joystick version and a trackball version for the 2600. Did you know that?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. We're working with Tom Yentz did that trackball hack, so we're working with him and Manuel.
That would be really nice, especially for those of us who buy ROMs.
Yeah, I think back then it was actually sold as a separate version, and then you had to buy the joystick version. So we're gonna try to combine it all into one version.
Yeah.
Trackball or joystick. We probably won't support every single type of trackball out there. It just doesn't make sense. We're not going to release a 128K game, so that one guy with the obscure, Amiga mouse can play our games. It's like at some point you got to draw the line and make something that's reasonable for the good of the group. So, we will add trackball support and joystick support to that. And again, the other ones are like Starfire, and there's a couple others I don't remember, to be honest with you. But anyway, so we're looking at that. So that's one opportunity there. So I do want to get back to more development this year. There's one thing I was not happy about, and some people have commented on PRGE. I had a little grumpy face. But that was mostly good. I was really tired because I was working on Ripoff late at night trying to get a playable version, which I did not end up getting done. But we are getting close on that one to have it playable and released. I know it's not a huge technical challenge as far as what Champ Games usually puts out, but it is one of those annoying favorites of mine from back in the day. I have very fond memories playing it with my brother.
Well, a lot of people like Ripoff.
Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with it. Not everything has to have like the graphical impressiveness of like an Elevator Agent or a Tutankham or a Turbo. Like, one of my favorites of your games is Ladybug Arcade. Like, it's just because it is such a good version of an already awesome game. And it doesn't have to be, it look like it belongs on the NES. It just plays so good.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So for Ripoff, we're obviously going to have the arcade version there, and then we're adding some new features to that. We're going to have challenge mode, some power-ups. It's really going to heavily focus on multiplayer. It supports 4-player simultaneous play, which is a lot of fun. So
Atari.
All four of you either defending or protecting the pods, or you can have like a 1-person versus 3 enemies, 3 people controlling enemies. You also be able to pick up the pod yourself, on when you're protecting them. So there's going to be some cool little features to it. So we hope it'll be something that's, we know it's not going to be a huge seller, probably long kicks, but at least it'll fill a void. It's something I started back in 2006. So, I'm one of those guys that really bothers me to have projects that I've started and I don't finish. So that's going to be something I can cross off the list as well. So.
Well, you mentioned Kicks may not be a great seller, but I don't know why. It's a good game.
I love it.
It's great. It's another one that's great version.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just a puzzle game. I mean, that's the problem.
It was also in the arcade, so
it is for me. It's right up there with Tetris is one of the best puzzle games. Like I
love it. Yeah, and that one actually had a lot of fun. The challenge mode with the power-ups really.
Oh yeah, the power-ups are awesome.
Enemies that really adds. And if you ever
for whatever reason, your version of Kicks it's so easy to split the double kicks and just keep doing that and doing the multiplier for your score.
That's a lot of fun.
I first played it on the Game Boy, and it was so difficult to do that. But on your version, it's like, yes, I feel like.
Yeah, we try to not to make the games so difficult that they're not fun.
I mean, even I could figure out how to. I could figure out how to trap the sparks too. It's like that wasn't easy, but once I figured it out, I'm like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool. So speaking of puzzle games, I forgot to mention that we are one game that we are releasing, another Champ Games Presents by Andrew Davey. I don't know if you know Andrew.
I do, Mr. Boulder Dash.
Yeah, Boulder Dash. He also released QB back in the day. I think he had something else. But anyway, so it's obviously an amazing developer. Just being able to do Boulder Dash without any extra hardware was him and Tom Thomas Jens did an amazing job. Bold Dash is one of my personal favorites from back in the day. I played it to death on the Atari 8-bit, and what they did with the 2600 version is nothing short of miraculous in my opinion.
It's
So
good.
so we have he's done a game called GridLock. It's based on the game what's it called, Rush Hour, which was a board game.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Where you're trying to, but he's done an amazing job. He's also using CDFJ, so the graphics, sound. He's got a lot of cool features. He put a save key support in it, so it has 100 mazes, so it stores your progress. So the ultimate goal is to solve all 100 puzzles. And there's power-ups. You can earn solvers, he calls them. So if you get stuck, you can use the solver to get to the next one. And it unlocks extra levels when you clear 10 of them. So he's done a great job making that game, really increasing the replayability to that. So we're looking forward. That one's basically done. We're working on the manual, and that will be part of the first batch of games that we print this year. Hopefully also with a rip-off, and then maybe a few others if we can get manuals games set by then as well. So
can I ask you a question? It's related to the 2600 and 7800 plus consoles.
Mm-hmm.
When my recollection is the last time that you spoke here on the podcast, we talked about it, and you were a little skeptical that your games would be playable on those, and they are now with the I don't know if it's the beta update or the latest update at Atari Age, either that or the one from Atari directly, but they play great. And so my question is, were you involved in that process to get it playable on those consoles?
Yes, but only from a support position, meaning this guy Chris Smith. He's a great guy. I've been working with him probably for like a year. He was actually at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, which it was great to meet him as well. But he has spent countless, hopefully not thankless hours doing this kind of stuff for the community. So I've sent him a lot of cartridges to test. That's really kind of what got this going. He was able to get Mappy going, and he reached out to me with Ben from Plan. Yeah, I don't know Ben. So that's kind of what got the ball rolling. And then I just sent Chris a bunch of cartridges, to just say thank you for all his hard work. So, he has a pretty good set of Champ games, but also games that they couldn't get working. So he had physical copies that he could work off of. So he was able to get those going. Then I went through my old archives trying to find as many, because a lot of these games require the original ROM to get working from a cartridge, because it uses like the checksum and some critical bits that I can't read off the cartridge. So that's where, there's like 10 versions of Turbo, and maybe not 10, like 4 or 5, a bunch of elevated agents. A lot of the newer games only have like 1 or 2 versions, but those are needed for backwards compatibility with cartridges that have already been released. But then anything new from that point forward that we sold obviously gets tested, and it's compatible with the Plus systems as well. So I probably spent maybe 30 or 40 hours testing, and so there was a lot of time on my end, but none of it was really technical. It was all just support. So
did Chris, if his name is familiar to me, did he do the firmware update for the Retron 77 also? Like the latest one?
His call sign on Atari is Razord, but with a zero instead of an O. So I don't know what else he's done, but certainly he's done an amazing job with system compatibility. So everyone on the show, or anyone that needs to know, you need to go to Atari Age. Atari is way far behind. They're still on the 2.014 version, which does not support any of our games except maybe Scramble and a few of the a few of the CGP Champion Presents titles. 2015 is available on Atari Age, but 2016 is the latest and much greatest, I would say, because a couple of things that it does. A, the performance is much better for all the games. 2, it supports all of our games, all 25 that we sell are supported on 2016. You can't say that with 2015. And the big thing is that 2016 adds virtual save key support. So if you enable that, so any game that uses a save key, you can enable that, and now you have save. You can save your high scores.
I was going to ask you about that. I think that's awesome. I'm going to check. I only have 2.0.1.5, but
you need 6, yeah.
Yeah. So, but there are a lot of people who buy your physical games who would love to get an Atari box because of Gorf Arcade and Wizard of War and the other games that you use it for. But Atari doesn't sell it anymore. Where can they get an Atari box?
Well, unfortunately, you'd have to get it off eBay or whoever's selling it. Right now, Atari Age is the only distributor, as far as I know, of the Atari box. And I talked to Al about it. Al is, he's just like us. He wants to be able to get those Atari boxes out. There's an issue with the chips. There's an issue. There's a shortage of chips. Fred, I don't know if we all know who Fred Quimby is. I certainly do. He's the guy that makes all the boards.
Concerto.
Concerto, Harmony guy. He's also the guy that makes the melody boards that I use in my games. He also makes the one-off games that we sell, like Juno 1st. And anyways, but him and Al, I don't know if I can say this, but not that it's a huge secret. I'm sure it won't violate national security too much, but they are working on a new design that will use different chips, and the hope is that there'll be a whole new batch of Atari boxes available sooner than later. So I don't know what the timeframes are on that. I know Al puts a small batch into the store every so often. With what I understand, they last probably maybe one day and then they're gone again. So so that's a little frustrating because obviously we do a lot of games that do a few games, even the games like Juno 1st and Star Stratobox, and Squish'em supports it now. Ruby Q supports it. So there's there's probably 5 or 6 games that we sell that support the Atari box. So that would be the only way to get those. So
that's maybe not a question for you, but I mean, just to put it out there, how difficult would it be to add voice support to the Stella emulator on the platform?
Extremely, unfortunately, because the design for the chip is not open source, so legally it cannot be ported to anything. So if it did, it would have been done. It would have been done 20 years ago, but legally it cannot be done. So
fair enough.
Yeah. So that's, if anyone is wondering why, it's not because no one has figured it out. It could be done probably in a day, or I'm exaggerating a little.
I've always thought that. It didn't occur to me that.
Yeah, it could certainly be done and emulated if there was a legal way to do it. So I don't know the exact details, but it has something to do with the licensing and who owns the SpeakJet chip or something like that. It's, again, don't quote me on that. I just know that it can't be done. There's not a technical barrier stopping it from being done. It's a legal, one of those famous legal ones. So because that would be the best. That's the only way you'll ever get it in the Plus systems, because the Atari box will never, ever, ever, and I can say that emphatically, work on a Plus system just because of the hardware limitations of the joystick ports. Neither will a Quadtari. So that's just the way it is. So, and that there's no, with what I understand, explained to me, there's no way to get it to work. So, so that's unfortunate, but it's just a reality we have to deal with. So
it's just amazing that it will play your games at all, though.
Yes, exactly. So we definitely got to focus on the positive. I'm sure a lot of people that these games would never, and again, that's a big shout out to Chris and the guy that does the Gopher emulator. I forgot his name. I think it's Mike, or is it Steve? I always get Mike and Steve confused. But anyway, I think it's Steve. But it's probably Mike. They've done a lot of great work just with optimizing. They've really done a fork of Stella specifically for the Plus systems, and written code that basically says, if you're a Champ game, do this because it'll make it run faster. So that's I'm honored that they do that just for my game. So it's we should really be thanking them for their efforts. So.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to read this comment, and then we're going to get to some of the questions from chat, because I've got like 41 starred comments right now. Oh. Game Boy Replay says, I'd love to see someone port obscure arcade games to the Atari 2600 or Atari 7800. It would feel like being a kid again. This is the guy. He does it.
Yeah, exactly.
I had never heard of Spiders Arcade before you released it.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of our games, maybe not obscure, but certainly they're not too common. I know a lot of people said they had never played Mappy back in the day or played Zookeeper back in the day. Obviously, we do some more popular games, but games like that are Rip-Off. I don't think it was super popular back in the day. That's
Rip-Off I played. I never played Zookeeper though.
Yeah, and then we have a lot of Champions Presents titles that are fairly I never heard of The End or Stratovox or things like that.
Yeah.
And I can say that also for 2025, I am working with Carlos, and he's developing a game that he hopes to release this year as well. Do you guys going to PRGE? I've already bought my booth, so hopefully
I may or may not. We'll see.
Okay, but anyway, so we're hoping to get
I'd like to
some things released then, but we also, if all goes well, we hope to have some releases throughout the year. So anyway, so obscure ports. As much as Galaga, I love Galaga and Galagon. That was just kind of a lightning in a bottle thing. I woke up one day in March and had an epiphany of how I could do Galaga. I wrote a point of proof of concept in about a day, sent it to Nathan, and he said, "You have to release this." And 4 weeks later, we had it basically 99% done. So that was just lightning in a bottle. But typically, I wouldn't do such a high-profile game for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, license, but two, it's just Galaga has been done to death, in my opinion. I mean, I'm glad we did it, but that's something we try to avoid now, where we're doing, we never do Donkey Kong anyway, but just games or Pac-Man or something like that. People are like, "Oh, do Pac-Man," blah blah blah. It's like, well, I don't want to go straight to jail. It's again, we're not trying to screw anyone over here. We like to just make games, and these are, we feel it's a better opportunity of Champ's time to take a port that maybe didn't get the attention and love back in the day that we feel deserves it, and introduce it to a new generation. And we've done that multiple times.
So let me ask you a question about Atari.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been in contact or had conversations with the powers that be at Atari to collaborate on anything?
Well, I have a good relationship with Matt and Ben, where we've talked multiple times, and that's kind of how Avalanche and Cabins of Mars came to be. And we have an open discussion for other games, whether they be ports of Atari titles or even games that we have already published to be officially released to Atari, games that Atari might be able to acquire the license for. So those discussions are always ongoing. The real stopper there is the hardware. Is that those would require a melody board to do, and right now there's no viable way to mass produce those. We can't say, "Fred, make us 50,000 of these." It's like it's ridiculous. You can make
that's
50 a day. So
right,
that would kill them. So it's so there's some challenges there, but I have a great relationship with Atari. I'm really impressed with what they've been doing. I think the Plus systems are amazing. I'm excited to see what they have in the future. So we have Matt came over to the PRGE booth in Portland, and we discussed this very thing. And so the door is always open. So if the stars align, Champ Games Atari collaboration is certainly something
it's happened before. It could happen again.
Yeah, and I'd be completely open to it. I mean, that's a dream come true. It's what I want to do as a kid. So I mean, no one's going to say, "Hey, do you want to go to Disney World?" No. But yeah, I'm going.
No, I want to go to the Atari Hotel.
Exactly. So
that's our show tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's a show for another night for sure.
Next question. We have 40 of these. Yeah,
we've got over 40 now. So are Champ Games concerned about ROM sharing?
No, not at all. I mean, we do put each ROM is. I'm about as concerned about as anyone else seems to be. I'm not going to spend my life policing. Oh my God, this guy shared my ROM. What am I going to do? It's like, obviously we prefer people don't do that. And if they do it, we're not going to stop it. And I'm not going to sit here on my high horse and say I'm better than anyone. I was part of the crowd that used to copy games back in the day and, MAME ROMs and stuff like that. I mean, we've all done it. Not proud of it. And certainly don't judge anyone for it. So maybe that's why I'm a little lax on it. But we do register each ROM So there is a fingerprint on each ROM that gets sent out.
You will know it's you.
Yeah. So worst we're going to do is public shaming, or again, if someone's going to spend time actually modifying the ROM so their fingerprint gets corrupted or whatever, then they probably want that ROM a lot more than they probably need it a lot more than I do. So yeah. So short answer, no. But the long answer is we prefer you don't. I mean, because
clearly a lot of effort goes into this, and nobody gets rich from homebrew.
Exactly. We pay royalties to everyone that significantly contributes to our products in our games. So you're hurting for a CGP title, you're hurting them. You're hurting the developers. So what's going to end up happening is like people are going to say, well, this isn't worth anymore, and not just because of the money, it's because people don't want to be a part of that. It's like
right. Now I have a question about ROMs. Now this is not related. I saw a concept. I know that Mike's got questions he's got for the.
I've got 43 more. So
I know. Let me just ask this one real quick. I saw something. It was like a concept of a multi-cart that would work on a Plus console, and on the top of it, where the top label, not the top, but the end label, there was a screen, and you could like pick the game that was on the cart from the screen and then load it and then turn on your. Have you seen anything like that?
No, I'll be honest with you, I don't.
Okay.
I try to get caught up in that because I have a lot of people asking, will your game work on XYZ? And we do our best. I try to buy as many of these systems. I never play any of them, but just so I can plug in a cart and say, yes, it works in that. But I'm really far behind, and I just saw a couple things about Mr. FPGA and all these other things. I don't, honestly, you're better off, if you want to know if something works on our
get the demo ROMs.
Get the demo ROMs and try it yourself, or reach out to the community that supports that product, because they'll know much more than I'll ever know about it, and it's always changing. And if it's something that doesn't work, then you should be pressuring them to add support to it. It's that simple. So a lot of times these like Mr. FPGA, whatever it's called, and these things, they just don't run the proper. They don't. I think the Mr. FPGA is I don't think it can work on that because it's a core that's just running the 2600. So it's not. And it's just running a ROM, so it doesn't have. It's not emulating the hardware, like the hardware in the cartridge. So that's really the issue there. So anyway, I kind of jumped ahead. Sorry, I was looking.
Yeah. Oh no, there's no worries. Yeah. Do you prefer carts or ROMs? And would you like to see a Intellivision Sprint style machine for the Atari 2600?
Or aren't there already like 100 Sprint style machines for the Atari 2600 called flashbacks?
Yeah. Right.
Well, so the Sprint is like you can load all your ROMs on there.
Well, you could do that with the new ones though.
Yeah, all the
new flashbacks. Okay.
Yeah.
The 11th, they have SD cards. So teach their own. I mean, I love part of the nostalgia for me is actually having a physical cart. I mean, the ROMs are really for convenience, but to me personally, the ROMs kind of detach you from the experience. That's my own.
That's fair.
Yeah, but then if you put a ROM on a Harmony cart and you're playing on a real system with a CRT and a real joystick, and I have my feety pajamas on, then maybe I could pretend that I'm still 9 years old again. But anyway, so either way, I mean, I know a lot of people have space issues with cartridges, but personally, I like. And this goes the same for like music and stuff like that. I just like to have something physical, something tactile.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Reading, and I love reading. Like I used to read manuals, unlike Phil, front to back. Even the Atari ones, like you get, air sea battle. I read that one front to back. Read them all front to back because you want to know everything about the game. I thought they were fascinating too. So
yeah, and M. Mark. M. Mark says they don't work on the Mister at this time.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to reach out to whoever's doing that development and say, well, why don't they work? Can it work? Was there something that may happen in the future? So
I'm going to use this one as a blanket one. There's like 4 or 5 questions here. for a whole pile of different systems. Do you know how to program for, now this says Intellivision, but people were asking 5200, 7800, Jaguar was mentioned, Atari 8-bit was mentioned. And are any of those systems something that you would want to play with in the future, or is the 2600 your jam?
Okay, well, yeah. So I don't know how to play the Intellivision, and I'm really a big fan of the Intellivision, and I know Casey.
That'll hurt some people in the trap, but that's okay.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
I do have fond memories of the Intellivision now because it was a cool system. Like when I was growing up, there was only a few people that had the Intellivision, so I specifically remember going to my buddy's basement and playing Major League Baseball. Also remember playing like Utopia. I enjoyed these are like as a kid. So yeah, so I think it's cool. I just never got into it, so there's no nostalgia pull there. So I don't know where to start, to be honest with you. So
well, speaking of baseball, I saw that on the website that that's kind of a proof of concept kind of thing. Maybe right now, I don't know, but are you working on a baseball game for the 2600?
Yeah, that was showcased, I think, on one of our posts on Facebook. So it was, I admit, I probably jumped the gun a little on that. We started that in February of 2020. Nathan and I worked on it for probably like a month. I posted some pictures of it and did a post on Atari Age. I thought it was coming on great, but that's the last time I worked on it. So that was March of 2020. So I'd love to do it, but I'm not going to throw Nathan under the bus because it was way too much for me as it is already. But the last thing was, okay, you do the sprites and then we'll start going with this. And we're still, as I've done that, I've said, oh, can you also do sprites for these 30 other games? So it's unfortunately, but it is on the list for 2025 at least 2026 to get a work in progress by PRGE. So we're hoping that. We know that it's interesting because back when I was 12, and going back to the Intellivision as well, is that sports games, video sports games was such a huge deal for me growing up. I loved them, whether it's basketball, baseball, football. I'm not going to say soccer, but we might as well. Hockey, stuff like that. I love
football.
But I think a lot of the draw there was playing with your buddies. Now that we're older, we don't have our buddies.
We don't have friends anymore.
I hope we don't have our friends sleeping on our couches. I can see that even though it's a great idea in my mind, I think when it gets released, it's going to be a lot of people. I don't think it's going to be accepted as well as it would have been 40 years ago because it's going to be people saying, well, this would be a lot better if I had a buddy to play with. So I think sports games in general would suffer in this type of environment because of that. So
probably. And I just want to say the Intellivision gamer forgives you.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
He's an Atari lover though, so he loves Atari too.
Yeah. So anyway, so back to your question real quick. So we'll just go over the list real quick. I got my start on Atari 8-bit, so I do hope to return to that one day.
That'd be awesome.
5200 is my favorite system that I never had as a kid growing up. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I still do. So what I may do is what I would like to do is do a 5200 8-bit release of the same game, which is
that would be really cool.
So that would be something I may revisit at some point. So because I would love that'd probably be the only one that would have enough nostalgia draw for me to. And I did actually do some Atari 5200 programming like 20 years ago. I just did like the demo. I'll get a dot moving around the screen just so I could get myself familiar with how it worked. So if that dot turns into a game is anyone's guess, but that's those would be the only games. 7800, I think what the 7800 homebrew scene has become is beyond amazing.
Yeah, you've got people like Bob DeCrescenzo who's in the chat. You've got Lewis Hill. You've got Doug Hinter. They're doing awesome stuff.
Exactly. Bob resurrected that, and there's been quite a community that's followed and really kept that going. But I got to tell you, first time I tried the 7800, I hated it. It was probably 1991 or 2. Got one at a yard sale. I was all excited, and that grating sound is still ringing in my ears. I did not like it at all. But obviously, these talented programmers, these talented programmers with Bob leading the way back, in the early 2000s, has really made that what it should have been, in my opinion. So it's amazing, but for me, I just have no nostalgia out of it. So
that's fair. Please God, I hope you answer no to this. Have you ever seen or heard of Michelle?
Is this a trick question?
No,
Maybe.
it isn't. And I'm so glad you said that. That's all right. You don't have to know. You don't want to know.
Okay, good.
Okay.
If your curiosity is aroused, check out Mike's channel. You'll find out who Michelle is.
Okay, maybe
you don't want to know Michelle.
Inside.
I'll put that on the to-don't list.
Yeah. Good idea. What measure of success do you value for a new game release?
For my own releases?
Yeah.
Okay, I would say just the feedback from the community. It's not necessarily sales, believe it or not. Because if that was the case, I would consider Kicks a failure. But I consider Kicks one of my favorite games that I've developed. One I had the most fun with, and one I think that has the best co-op mode and also the best challenge mode. So
it's an amazing game, man.
So I thought, it wouldn't be that; it would just be how it is received by someone. So the only game I think wasn't received as well as I hoped it would have been Conquest of Mars. Believe it or not, I remember it was released. People thought it was way too difficult, which I guess in retrospect it was. Back then, I was going through my phase where I wanted games to be as challenging as possible for myself because that's what pushed me to want to play them at all. Whether it was that was like kind of a flashback or a rollback to like how Activision games were. I remember I was playing Activision Skiing, trying to shave off 1/100th of a second. That kind of what drove me to even play those games. And I saw a good challenge in that. So when I did Conquest / Cavern of Mars, I kind of had that in my mind saying, okay, this is going to be a game where people are going to be really proud of themselves if they can actually beat it. But instead it was more like, this game's too difficult. You suck. Don't quit your day job. So.
Sounds like Phil's chat.
Yeah.
Nostalgic for the 70s 18 wants me to read this for you. The Atari 5200 podcast rejoices to hear that we can one day look forward to Atari 8-bit / 5200 games release.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. What I may do is end up just porting one of my 2600 games to that.
You got lots to choose from.
I was thinking Ladybug might be a good, I don't know if there's already been a Ladybug. I know that's an active community as well. So
yeah,
making a Gala for the 5200. It's looking really good, by the way.
If I can mention something, as far as Atari 8-bit in general, if you look online, there's it's called the HomeSoft collection, and there are like 3,000 games in this collection for Atari 8-bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's in it and what's not for sure, but 3,000 games. There might have been someone who attempted to do it. Those are not obviously all retail releases, but
right. I can tell you, if it wasn't for the Atari 8-bit, I wouldn't be programming today. Like, not even as a job. I mean, that's what made me fall in love with programming to begin with, as an 11-year-old. And then from that, taking a programming class in high school and then majoring that at college at University of Connecticut. And then starting to develop DOS games in the early 90s, which led to Champ Games forming. Actually, this is our 30th anniversary. Actually, almost February 1st is our 30th anniversary of Champ Games. So, been
Retro Don saying there's no Ladybug that they're aware of for the 5200.
Okay, good. It's good to know. So
there you go.
So maybe one of these days I'll at least get that going. So, but the problem, and it's always been the problem for the last 10 years, is that our list, you guys have no idea what the list of 2600 games are that we have in the works. It's literally probably, I think, 3 dozen that are.
We'd have an idea if you listed them for us now.
Yeah, exactly. Which I won't do, but isn't that will obligate me to finish them? But Nathan and I we have so many games that are been started, or some much farther than others. But it seems like if I just release 2 games a year, I'll be dead before I finish all these things. So it's like, God forbid I'm not, but it's possible. So that's really the problem is that, and once you get going, changing gears from Atari 2600 development to another one, there's going to be a whole another ramp up period. And it's not just that. So once you make the game, now what do you do? Now you get to actually produce the game. You get it's a whole nother ball game with that. So, but we'll see. Never say never. So,
all right. Paul Chester says that you're probably tired of seeing his name come across your desk.
Yes, Paul has become quickly one of our best customers. Thank you, Paul. He just started buying games from us probably a couple weeks, maybe about a month ago, 6 weeks. I'm not really sure, but he's really been. Every day I see a new order from him, and I'm just about to ship out an order, and wait, Maureen's like, we got another one from Paul Chester. Don't throw that one up yet. Got a bigger box, and so we do
Nothing
that.
wrong with the bigger box.
Yeah, we try to combine shipping and save people money if we can. So it's thank you, Paul, for all your support and everyone else.
So we've covered this in a previous interview. If you want to just give us like a really short response to this, but how do you decide what games to make?
That all comes by inspiration. And you're going to have an example in a few weeks because mid-December, out of nowhere, Nathan and I were having some random conversation. And a month later, we had almost a full working version of a game no one would ever expect from us. And it just came out of nowhere. It was something we weren't going to do, nothing. And it's a really cool game. So it's a port, and it's something that... So it's all by inspiration. That's what happened with Gala. Really, I can tell you if I plan something out, I usually don't enjoy the project because it's something that, and ripoff is one of those. Even though I love ripoff, the fact that I'm kind of forcing myself to do it because I don't like it. It
becomes work.
Yeah, it becomes work. And I love ripoff. So it's not because of the game itself. It's because it's not being inspired by creativity. It's being inspired by something else that's external to that. So, but this other game, I think people are going to be pretty impressed with. I was impressed. I'm like, man, we're doing great in this. And it's one of those games where in a month we can do what usually I've been working on ripoff for a year, and I'm still toiling away. It's like I get like 20 minutes in, and I can't do this anymore. And this game is like, bam. So that's really how we do it. So, and sometimes it's obviously a lot of people from the community. They'll suggest something, and then I'll go take a look, and I'll think, it's actually kind of cool. Actually, Phil, you were playing a game on your channel about a month ago that I looked at. And went, this would be a cool game. And I went and played on MAME, and I started it because of you. And I will let you know what it is if we ever get it to a playable version. So,
wow,
that's
one of the 30. Cool. Yeah, you seem to enjoy it too. So I'm like, Phil's going to enjoy this one. I mean,
it must be good. If he can play it, anybody can.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it.
Holy Grail video games. We did talk about this earlier. Atari Vox is coming back to Atari Age, hopefully sooner rather than later, but it is in works. Okay, next question. You already answered this. Well, the one or two that you had mentioned.
Yep, the other one that we announced at PRGE. James kind of coaxed it out of me, and I was actually he didn't. I shouldn't say that. I was very tired, and I just blurted it out. So we are making Space Dungeon for the 2600. So
that was
Space Dungeon.
A question. There is a few people who hinted at: are you making the other 5200 twin stick shooter?
Yes, exactly. I've been saying twin stick shooter for about a year and a half now, and then finally at PRGE, I just decided to let the cat out of the bag. So that way, that one I love that game. Both in the 5200 and the arcade. So that one is probably about, say, 20% done. Nathan's done all the graphics. And I have a basic engine working. So that one's definitely going to be released this year. So it's being called Cosmic Dungeon, by the way. So,
okay.
Well, there you go. Cosmic Dungeon, completely different game. No issues there whatsoever.
Yeah.
M. Mark asks, what obscure arcade games would you like to work on in the future for the 2600? Is there any that are like, man, I'd really like to try that?
Not really, without giving away anything we've already started.
Yeah, there's if you've got a couple dozen that are potentials, then you probably don't want to list them.
Yeah, I don't have any in mind right now. So
Fair enough.
again,
we're not a gotcha program. If you don't want to answer a question, you don't have to answer a question.
perfect.
Mr. Poststyle, this isn't a question, this is a comment. He says he almost read the manual for Spiders Arcade, but then got distracted and started playing with the little plastic spider.
Yeah, that was kind of a cool idea that we came up with. Make the surprise our customers that buy the box version of Spiders Arcade. So that was cool. So I'm glad people. I was really surprised by that. I mean, that a lot of people posted pictures of it and really excited about that. So we hope to be able to do that in the future. It's always about doing something that makes sense as far as
if it fits with the theme, and those are what, like, you get 100 of them for $5.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it doesn't cost you anything.
Exactly. Yeah, we can't do things where, hey, we're going to include well, you saw at PRGE, we're giving away $5 gift certificates to Burgerville for buying Chaotic Grill. It sounded great in my head, but it cost us like $250. But it was
actually it probably made a lot of money for Burgerville because people didn't want to use them because it had like the Champ Games sticker on it.
Yes, exactly. So we can use it to get them right back. So anyway.
Chuck Finn says, "Hear me out. Asteroids, but it tanks the GPU."
Is that like code for something? I don't understand.
It makes your 2600 catch on fire. Basically, it overworks the graphic capabilities.
I think he's talking about Space Rocks, right? Doesn't Space Rocks already do that?
Space Rocks does a really good job of it.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it's interesting. Space Rocks started off. Daryl started that off. That was his 100 sprite demo that turned into Space Rocks. He was just trying to see how far he could push the arm, and he did a 100 sprite demo of rocks floating around. He goes, "Oh, might as well just make Space Rocks out of this." So that literally he caught the GPU on fire. So
it's the best version of Asteroids for the 2600 for sure.
It is. I would agree. Bigfoot on the Rocks. This is it's a more of a comment than a question because you've already mentioned this, but he's like, when is that other dual stick treasure hunt space shooter coming out? I'm staying in my dungeon until that game comes out.
Nice. Yeah, I'd say most likely by the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. That's the target date for that one because we have a few games before that release.
Yeah, and that PRGE tends to be when you do your launches.
Yeah,
or around that. That's like your first physical launch.
Yeah, we're hoping to do a spring launch this year, a summer, and then the PRGE one.
Okay. Would that be like Midwest Gaming Classic, or where would that be?
No, it'll just be like released for our store.
Just on the store. Okay.
Yeah, so batch of games. Again, we get enough games together where we can do a print job where we print up 1,000, labels and things like that. Get a decent price. Release 4 or 5 games, reprints or whatever, and a couple new games, and then we'll do that in the summer, and then we'll do one in the fall. So it should be a fairly big year for Champ if all goes well. So
that's awesome to hear. A good year for Champ Games is a good year for Atari fans. Retro Gamers 1977 says, are you going to do achievement patches for? He says all the games. I'm going to say other games. Because you've done them, you have that. Is it Galagon or is it Gorf? Gorf. And he says I'd pay for them if that would help get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I don't know. That was kind of a bust. What we did, we ordered 800 because we just didn't do that right. We ordered 200 of each patch because there's 4 levels, so there's 800 patches. It costs a lot of money, and I think we've given out 30, and this is after 5 years, so it's complete bust.
I think the big problem for me is that you have to do it on an original system, and I only have the ROM of Gorf.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of relaxing the rules a little bit, maybe. Just saying.
I would enter then because I've had scores that would get me 1 or 2 of those patches.
Yeah, just send me the score, and we'll put you on the board. And get you. I was actually thinking of starting to include the patches with Gorf Arcade, all 4 of them, but you can't get added to the high score list until you submit a score. So that way. Everyone gets the patches. I can get rid of the patches, You have them as a collectible, but you can't brag about.
But you haven't earned them unless you're on the list.
Exactly.
Yeah. And this is we already talked about you potentially doing some Atari 8-bit stuff in the future. This is a comment from Mr. Postal. In Dino Eggs, you travel back to Bliss's elementary school days and steal his breakfast.
What's that?
Oh my God.
And so you released Dino Eggs.
Yes.
It's a game about going back to Phil's elementary school and stealing his breakfast.
That's basically what it's all about. You get Phil's big foot trying to crush you.
Gen X Memories asks, what about an RPG type of game? Is that you? Because you do a lot of arcade ports. Is that something that even interests you?
Absolutely. But I'm more of an action RPG guy. I don't like Ultima. I got to be honest with you, those kind of games. But one game I did really love growing up was Temple of Apshai, if that's how you pronounce it, for the Atari 8-bits, which is more of a. It was kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, but you had a guy on the screen you were moving and attacking monsters and stuff like that, and getting treasures and stuff like that. So it was more of an action RPG. So if we ever did something, it would be something along those lines. I almost see Tutankham Arcade is almost like an action RPG, kind of. But obviously, you're not ramping up, your skills and stuff like that. So that would be the next.
Yeah,
I have thought about that, and honestly. A thought I did have would be you would create a character that you would save to the Atari, to the save key, and then we could sell cartridges with different adventures, and you could use the same character, and you could collect stuff in one adventure and then go back to the original game with a magical item that you had gotten to get through it. You know what I'm saying? So it would almost be like a sword quest type situation, except one that doesn't make you want to blow your head off. So there's some opportunities there. But we'll see.
Okay. Andy Author says, are you still doing Xevious for the 2600? And how are you going to do that when the 2600 controller only has one button?
Good question.
Well, I mean, Xevious, the demo has been out for 5 years, right? So Chris is that's already available. So we're not going to do anything. It's already one button controls both. Or you can use a dual button, right?
That's right.
Gamepad.
I remember now.
Because one thing a lot of people don't know is you can use a Sega Genesis controller for a lot of your games and have multiple buttons.
Yeah. So the way Chris, again, Chris is being developed by Chris, but if we do release it, it will be a Champ Games release, just because Chris has kind of handed the reins over to me to complete it. We've already champified it, meaning we've added like the Champ Games title screen and the high score table, the Champ Game, challenge mode, the skill levels. So it's all been champified with his game underneath. We still need to add the boss level, but a little wrinkle has been put into that. And that I'm sure we all know that Atari has released the Pac-Man Namco Plus system, and they've also republished Xevious. Right, the actual arcade games.
Yeah.
So, there could be some legal reasons why we can't move forward with that. At least
that was one reason why I asked you if you had anything going on with Atari. Maybe that's something you guys could work on together.
Yeah, possible. I mean, again, just so everyone's clear, that's Chris Walton's game. Basically, he's the one who's done it. I haven't done any gameplay for it. So that would be something that would have to be taken up between Chris and Atari, which I'm sure he'd be more than thrilled to go if we end up having to go that way. Who knows? So we'll see. So,
and for those of you who don't know, I mean, Chris Walton has programmed one of my favorite Atari homebrews, which is Juno First.
Yes,
he is a quality programmer.
Yeah, he also did Boom. So he's both available at champ.games.
Game Boy Replay asks, for someone interested in making games for the 2600 and 7800, he says, I know you don't program for the 7800, but using modern tools, in your opinion, which system is easier to develop for?
Can't speak to the 7800, so I'm going to say 2600 on that one. I mean, I just use TextPad, so the modern tools I use TextPad, and that's basically it. So obviously, Nathan's using a lot of modern tools for things that we've done with graphics and stuff like that. So I think he was using Photoshop or Adobe Premiere or something like that. That's how we did Turbo's graphics. He rendered it all 3D, and then, you know, I developed a utility to basically convert it to Atari graphics to use in my games. But yeah, so certainly Nathan is pushing the envelope as far as using modern tools to certainly speed up the development or even, you know, make it possible. So
interesting.
That's really cool. Champ Sports Baseball and Lunar Lander? Question mark?
Yes. Okay, so Champ Sports Baseball we've already talked about. It's something I really want to do. Nathan's always said he won't work on it until the Mariners win the World Series.
So it's not getting done.
They came close this year. At least they made the playoffs. Lunar Lander, again, that's an Atari property. So if it does get released, we've already talked to Matt about that. And if that does get released, it will be released as an Atari title, not a Champions title. But we will most likely do the development on that. There's a Lunar Lander I guess it's a work in progress, but it's a complete game right now. But certainly other stuff we would want to do if we did end up releasing it. So,
okay, here's a really interesting question from Andy Author. Do you ever worry about copyright infringement with how close to the arcade versions some of your games are? Or do you have, or do you contact the arcade rights holders for all the games that you do, is what he's asking. Okay,
well, don't worry about it, because if they come out and say, we don't want you to do this, then we'll just take it out of the store. It's not the end of the world for me. This is just it's just something people have to understand the climate of how all this came about. We were all doing this kind of stuff back in the day. And it's only recently that these copyright holders have really seen the benefit of these re-releasing these games and utilizing their IPs. So Champ Games, I feel like Champ Games and other developers from back in the day really carried the mantle of these games so that other people could experience them. With that said, I'm not also blind to the fact that they are the IP holders. So if they approach me and say, you don't have the right to do this, we want you to stop doing it, we'll stop. No questions asked. We're not, but if there was an opportunity for us to license these games, we certainly would. But I can tell you right now, me going to Namco or whomever, Taito or whatever, and saying, can we make 100 copies of your game? They'd laugh us out of the place. It costs them more for their lawyer to talk to us than they would ever make on royalties. So the only opportunity for us to do that would be through someone like Atari, who has the clout and the money and and can promise, meeting certain thresholds to say, hey, we're going to sell 10,000 copies of Xevious, to Namco, or 50,000 or 100,000. Can we license that? And you guys will get, $5 a copy, whatever the deal is. Then it makes more sense, But it's just not beyond, something like what Dion did with Lode Runner. That was a different story because that was a very small company,
Yes. Yeah.
So that you kind of, exactly right there. There's slow right there. You can appeal to their human, nature and say, wouldn't it be cool if kind of thing. But corporations.
Oh, and if you show them like what Dion did on Lode Runner is amazing.
Exactly. So, and we did have an opportunity. The guy that did Dino Eggs. Carlos was able to get permission from him to have that basically licensed through him.
Oh, that's awesome.
It wasn't really licensed, but it was done with his permission.
Or blessing.
Exactly. So if the opportunity is there, we certainly wouldn't turn it away. I would prefer to do it like that. But the reality is, the other option would be we just don't do the game. So we are taking our chances, but again, the chance is basically, I think the worst case would be you have to stop selling the game. So
and that's the thing. Like I've said many times on the channel, like we're all pirates, but pirates have a code.
Yes, I guess.
And you should never, ever, ever get upset at an IP holder or a license holder that asks you to stop. You just be like, "Yep, okay, done."
And I would, yeah. And this is, and people have to also put in perspective. This isn't like, I'm taking Pac-Man's, face and putting on a T-shirt and trying to sell it. This is spending 2, 3, 4,
code.
sometimes 7 years, making an interpretation of their game for obscure system. So this it's not a.
You're not just taking an existing game, burning it to a cart, and out the door.
I think that's outright theft.
That's outside the code.
Yeah, way outside the code. So
yeah.
But anyway,
I'm not going to ask you the numbers because he has the numbers. It's like what would you say is the best selling of all your games?
Well, it's hard to tell because we've only been selling games for a few years, but if we combine sales,
even Atari, like the Atari Age sales,
Atari Age, I'd say Gala by far.
That's what I was going to say.
I wouldn't say by far. I'd say a close second, believe it or not, is Ladybug, and that's only because it's longevity, and that's the original Ladybug that came out in 2006. And so not that I won't share numbers with you, but certainly the Galagon mostly. I think it's also a pretty good game, but also
it's a great game.
The name, the Galagon. I think shooters in general sell the best. People can just pick up and play. There's nothing complicated about it. So
cool. Ageless Atari here, John. Out of all the games you've programmed for the 2600, which game would you say was the most challenging to create / design?
Elevator Agent by far. Yeah, that one was like 7 years in the making. Not that I worked on it for 7 years straight, but it was that. I've told this story before that if you know the limitations of the Atari and what you see on the screen from Elevator Agent, I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit here. It's nothing short of miraculous of what you see, just because it was like.
I was astonished. I was like, "This isn't the 2600."
I
don't know how you did this.
I racked my brain for like 6 months on how to get those color changes on the bottom, and I needed 2 more cycles. And I woke up one day in a cold sweat, and I went, "I know how to do this," and it came to me in a dream.
And your wife just shook her head. She's like,
"Yeah, exactly." And that was it. So so that was that one really was a challenge, but Elevator was one of my favorites. So I was always inspired and motivated to do that one. So
it's better than the NES version, in my opinion. For sure.
Thanks.
Way better.
Although Phil, you don't know how to stand up without jumping. He was
I
yelling
do.
at you.
You press the button
chat.
and then you push up on the joystick. I did that.
Yeah,
it's not in my outro, but
maybe that wasn't the best design choice by me. But if you have a 2-button joystick, you don't have to worry about that because then you just press button 2 to jump. And then I would say second place would be. I'm not going to say Turbo because Turbo Arcade was more difficult for Nathan than me because the engine itself of that, it is a full 60 frames per second, basically motion player that we designed that combines play field and sprites. So it's a little complicated, but certainly nothing like Elevator Agent. And the second most difficult one I worked on was Mappy, by far. So
a lot going on in that game.
Yeah, so
a lot going on in that game.
Yeah.
And then third place would be Robot War.
I'm not a programmer, but I look at all of these and I don't know how you do it. So
yeah, I guess they're all pretty challenging in their own ways. So
in the middle of the night, I wake up in a cold sweat and like, how'd John do that? Different take on the question. Do you have a favorite that you've made?
I would say Tutankham Arcade.
That might be my favorite of your games too. Yeah. Why would you say Tutankham Arcade?
I don't know. I love the challenge mode in that. I think it plays great. It's also the first game I did the sound on. I've always relied on the good graces of the community to do sounds. But Tutankham, I can play the piano by ear.
So you got on the piano and went toot 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 toot.
Basically, that's kind of how I did it. Exactly.
Well, it was, coding the notes are assigned numbers.
Yeah, so. I took an engineering approach. I took the wave files from MAME broke them down, zoomed in, was playing like 0.06 seconds of each note, and then mapped them to, I developed a utility to get the waveform and the frequency, and then I mapped that to it, and I just did that one little piece at a time for each sound, and then I played the whole thing together and went, that sounds exactly like the arcade. So it really is, it's a mathematical problem. So once, that was my first, what do you call it? I majored in math before switching to computer science and ended up getting a minor in applied mathematics. And so that was my first love, was math, before computers ruined that dream. But yeah,
They
so
go hand in hand anyway. So
anyway, so that's why it's Tutankham, probably because of that. But also, I love, that's kind of like an action adventure game in my opinion, with the treasures and the keys and stuff like that. And
yeah, I'd call it a cross between an action adventure and like a dungeon crawler, I guess.
Yeah, yep. And I think the effects are really cool, like the way you shoot and stuff like that. It's challenging.
yeah, the super bomb and how the screen flashes and
yeah. So I think that's probably my favorite that I've done. So.
Well, I'm proud of us. It's only an hour and a half in, and I have now finished, because there were a lot of duplicate. There were a lot of guys wanting you to program for the 5200.
Okay, good to know.
So that's good to know. Atari 8-bit should be in your future. You'll have a lot of support. But we got through all the chat questions.
Wonderful, thank you.
Phil, you want to wrap us up?
yeah, I'm at in awe of all that you've done, and I'm very excited to see what happens this year. I'm gonna have to come out of retirement though to pay for some of this stuff, but it's it's amazing what you've done for the 2600. And like I said, the motivation for me is, man, what if I had this back then? Oh man, and it's just so much fun. Listen, John, I appreciate you being here as always. Anytime that you would like to come on the show.
Thanks for keeping the 2600 fun.
Well,
yes.
Love your games.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Good. I'm really, honestly, I'm really shocked that, I started this adventure with the 2600 about 20 years ago when I released Ladybug in 2006 and started Caverns of Mars in 2005. If you'd have told me 20 years later, the homebrew scene actually seems bigger now than it did 20 years ago, as far as, the interest in Atari and classic games, whether it's in the Intellivision, Coleco, Vectrex, there's so many links, 7800, it's amazing. So if you would have told me 20 years ago it's going to be bigger in 20 years, I would have called you crazy, but here we are.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And like I said before, anytime you'd like to come on, if there's anything newsworthy that you'd like to share with our audience, and Mike and I both, we have a big enough audience that we have people talking about your games all the time.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. No, I appreciate it. I love coming to the show. It's a lot of fun. You guys are great to talk to, and what you guys do for the community is very much appreciated. So,
and just before we go, I actually forgot. I did a poll in my chat saying, do you own any games from Champ Games? There were 49 votes. 49% said yes.
Okay.
43% said no. But hopefully after this interview, and I mean, honestly, you check out my channel. I've got plenty of Champ Games reviews. You check out Phil's channel. He makes some of the best stuff for the 2600. Not the best stuff like now for the 2600, the best stuff ever for the 2600.
Wow.
In my personal opinion. And 8% did the third one and said soon.
Even better.
Soon they will own games.
That's what I like to hear. And again, it's good. It's good to get the acknowledgement that people appreciate what we do, because as long as people appreciate what we're doing, then we'll keep on doing it. If it very gets to the point where really Champ Games on another 2600 game, then we'll probably pack it in then. So we do appreciate everyone's support, even if it's not even just the financial support. I have many people that just reach out to me and thank me for like Phil says, making them feel 12 years old again, and having be able to experience the 2600 in a different way, that still tugs at those heartstrings, I guess, the best way to say it. So,
and making Phil feel 12 again takes a lot of effort because he's very old.
I don't remember 12, so I don't know how I could remember. I make me feel something I can't remember.
That's good. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, check out Mike's videos, if only for the intros. He does a great job.
Oh, Mike's intros are top notch. Yeah.
So,
But we do reviews on both. So listen, John, thank you so much. And I appreciate everybody out there who took the time to watch and listen to John and get the scoop on what's going on and what's happening for this year. And so with that, don't forget, tomorrow night, we are going to have our friend Keo Dyken on the show. He was at the Consumer Electronics Show, and we're going to be talking about some of the things that he saw there. Some of the things you probably have heard of. There may be some things you have not, but I'm anxious to find out when we talk to Keo tomorrow night. So with that, you guys have an awesome day, and we'll see you next time on Retro Bliss Rewind. Bye-bye.
Great. Thanks.
There we go.
That was good.
Yeah,
that was really
great.
Good.
That was
I can't
great.
believe when you said you had 43 questions. I went, oh my God, this is worse than the SATs.
Yeah, I'm telling you what.
Thankfully, a lot of them were duplicates. It's like
the
one guy, the 5200 podcast or whatever, there was like 4 or 5. It's like, are you going to do anything for the 5200? Are you going to do?
That's funny.
I don't know if
Michelle,
you can see
I wasn't
chat.
going to say it. I wasn't going to say it on the thing. Michelle, there is an obsession with Michelle. It's me and drag in 2 of my intros.
That's his alternate lifestyle.
Oh, no. Okay. Well.
And there's AI stuff out there that Casey's put together, and it's disturbing how into this people are getting.
Yes, it's a little scary. I'm gonna try to stay off the internet for a while. that was a lot of fun, guys. I appreciate it. So
Yep. And I man, just in the last few chats, I don't know if you were able to see that, but man, there were people saying that they were ordering while the show was going on.
Phil, we're still live. You didn't end the stream. Bye, everybody.